guys, Mapletail here. Welcome to my reaction to the newest book in the Warrior Cat series, Thunder. So spoiler warning for the entire book. As for the drawing, we're reworking a drawing of Splashtail that I made for the Wind Cover and Blurb reveal, I think. Before all that, you may have seen this from some of the community posts that I've been sharing, but I just wanted to mention here too that I've made an Etsy shop to sell any stickers I make. So far, I have my Moonflower cat design up that I drew during Cattember, as well as Warrior Cat stickers of our 3 Starless Clan protagonists, Nighthart, Sunbeam, and Frostpaw. I'm also working on a Cattails Wildwood story one that may be up by the time this video is out. If you want a way to support me, please check it out. I'll leave a link in the description. Back to Warriors. As usual, this isn't a formal review, just my thoughts throughout reading the book. I've already read and talked about the chapters in the preview, so today we're jumping right into chapter 4. Let's get into it. We start off with a Frostpaw POV. She wakes up in Horse Place with Whistlepaw, who carried her there to safety. I'm so glad we're getting more of these two. They have a very sweet friendship. Whistlepaw promises to protect her, and Frostpaw confides in her about her vision about Reed Whisker. Very glad that someone else other than Splashtail knows about it too now, even if it might put her at risk. Whistlepaw starts to suggest that maybe it was Splashtail who attacked her, but unfortunately Frostpaw shuts her down right away. He is very sketchy. I just wish she could see that. Whistlepaw leaves Frostpaw in the care of a familiar cat, Smokey, Daisy's former mate. He has 2 new kits, now called Coriander and Little Daisy. Adorable. Less adorable, while Frostpaw sleeps, Smokey calls over a 2-leg who takes Frostpaw away. I know he was just trying to help, but poor Frostpaw. She's just constantly going through it. And she specifically asked him not to do this. Chapter 5 is back with Nighthart. My worst fears occurred here. Squirrelflight couldn't reach StarClan due to some clouds covering the moon. Absolute trash garbage. At least it's not a definitive no, it's not gonna work, but still stressful. The cats run into some SkyClan cats, and they suddenly remember that Tree the Mediator exists, and should maybe be helping the whole situation between Shadow and RiverClan. Nighthart ends up getting sent home, while Squirrelflight waits out the rain, which I'm hoping works out and we have Squirrel Star in the next few chapters. We learn that Splashtail and Owlnose have been looking for a missing Frostpaw. I'm surprised that Splashtail wasn't looking alone to finish her off. Chapter 6 features Sunbeam's first trial. Ivypool is much kinder than Berryheart about it right away, letting Sunbeam choose if she wants the company in Nighthart and his family, and not getting the whole clan to watch. Much less pressure. The trial is an interesting one. Sunbeam must hunt enough prey for the elders with the help of Spotfur's kits, but she's not allowed to catch anything herself. I'm glad to get to know this litter full of legacy names a little bit better. I liked all their interactions a lot. It was a very wholesome scene, and I'm especially attached to Little Grey Kit, who wants to catch every type of prey one day. If Sunbeam stays in ThunderClan, I hope she gets to mentor one of these kits one day. She passes the trial, and everyone was impressed with her work, which was great. Less great was Nighthart was nowhere to be seen, having left for the moon pool again, leaving Sunbeam with cats who are barely more than strangers for a second night in a row. I hope she keeps growing close to the other ThunderClan cats, as it seems like Nighthart is going to continue to abandon her to adjust alone. An adjustment she's quite literally making just for him. Next we return to Frostpaw. I'm very nervous what is going to happen to her in the hands of 2-legs. She dreams of Riverstar. He tells her that she must become stronger to calm the waters of RiverClan, and that a new leader can't be chosen until then. He promises to help her, and that she will also need the help from the living, though he doesn't elaborate before she wakes up. All of this has me wondering if the fans who think Frostpaw will one day lead RiverClan may be onto something. Honestly, as long as she's able to grow up a bit first, and isn't forced into anything, I'm here for it. Frostpaw is back at Horse Place when she awakens. Her neck is all patched up, thankfully. as is her flank, a place where she did not have a wound. Smokey explains that happens to a lot of she-cats that the two legs help. By the sound of it, Frostpaw has been spayed. In real life, I'm all for spaying and neutering cats. It prevents a lot of suffering. But in the context of warriors, I'm horrified for her. It just feels very violating. She probably won't even know the extent of what was done to her for a long time. And I'm sure it'll hit like a truck when she learns the truth. Also, how unfair is that? Smokey, who lives in Horseplace, clearly hasn't been neutered, so why her? When Whistlepaw comes back, Frostpaw asked her to spread some of her fur where she'd been attacked, so everyone will know that the blood was hers and that she's dead, before heading to the moon pool to try to speak to StarClan. I wonder if she's going to run into Nighthart keeping watch over Squirrelflight. Maybe that's how they end up journeying together, as the blurb suggests. As she gets close to the moon pool, the ThunderClan cats are still there, and Frostpaw has to settle down further away. It must be close enough, as she dreams of Riverstar. It's strange to have this cat, who had no real connection to StarClan for a long time, now have a direct line to Riverstar. Though I'm glad he is stepping up to finally help her. Someone should. She also sees Mothflight, Misty Star, and Reed Whisker, and surprisingly not Curlfeather. Is she not in StarClan for some reason? Riverstar tells Frostpaw that she must take a journey, that she must learn to break RiverClan to put it back together. Very curious as to what that means. She begs him to choose any other cat, but StarClan seems determined to send this young, injured, and severely traumatized cat. Frostpaw's one request is also denied. She wants to see her mother. Riverstar says he wishes she could. Where is Curlfeather? Is she stuck as a ghost? Please tell me she's not in the Dark Forest. I know she knew something about what's going on in RiverClan, but surely she didn't do anything that required that kind of drastic action. Frostpaw says that they are asking too much of her, and I agree. Their only response is that she doesn't have to do this alone, which is something. Not enough, but something. The StarClan cats are very cagey about Curlfeather, about who the RiverClan killer is, and about who is meant to travel with Frostpaw. They just tell her to focus on the future and follow her paws. They promise she can trust the cat they are sending with her, but also being so vague, how is she supposed to? Also, StarClan better get on speaking to Squirrelflight, cause clearly the rain is not that big a deal, as Frostpaw is getting dreams on dreams from them. Back with Nighthart, he catches the scent of a RiverClan cat. Definitely Frostpaw, as I predicted. Nighthart finds her and wakes her. She confides in him about what's been going on, thinking that he could be the cat she is meant to travel with. He's not a big fan of the idea, until Frostpaw says that whoever helped her would be helping save the clans, and would probably be pretty famous. Which of course works on Nighthart with ease. Screw Sunbeam, who he just got to switch clans for him, I guess. He could be famous. He's still so worried about being his own cat and not just Firestar's kin. I thought we were past this. I understand that he had to agree to go help Frostpaw and follow the will of StarClan, but he really couldn't have told anyone he was leaving? Poor Sunbeam, oh my god. She's gonna think he's abandoned her. Again. And he kinda has. She deserves so much better. Sunbeam has a chapter next, and we receive incredible news. Squirrelflight has received her 9 lives and become Squirrel Star. I actually cannot believe it. I only wish that we got to see her ceremony somehow. Squirrel Star also shares that Nighthart has gone, but urged the clan not to worry. She privately tells Sunbeam that StarClan shared with her that Nighthart had to leave for a while, which I'm very grateful for. At least she's not totally in the dark like I worried. I was also glad to see that Sparkpelt and Finchlight continue to be kind to Sunbeam and worry about her. It's just lovely. I hope that while Nighthart is gone, Sunbeam is able to do her own thing and find a place for herself that isn't reliant on him. The clans have a special gathering to announce Squirrel Star's leadership. I was glad to see Leafstar was pleased, even if the other leaders were not. And Tawny Pelt had a very nice moment with her brother Brambleclaw, telling him that he's earned some peace. Keeping her word, Whistlepaw also told the clans of finding Frostpaw's blood and fur. I was surprised at the look of horror on Splashtail's face. Even if he wasn't the attacker, the attack was definitely his fault, as he was the only one Frostpaw confided in, and I do not trust him in the slightest. Tigerstar goes on about how well he's taking care of RiverClan, which is infuriating and just straight up untrue if the ragged state of the ShadowClan warriors staying by the river and all of RiverClan are anything to go by. Not to mention, the near murder and disappearance of Frostpaw happened on his watch. Tigerstar continues with his trash, accusing Squirrelstar and Leafstar's want of ShadowClan out of RiverClan territory as a ruse so they can take over the land for themselves, which is very clearly not what is happening. Squirrelstar diffuses some of the tension by calling forward Tree to help. He agrees to speak with each leader to try to find a peaceful solution. Good stuff, though I'm not sure what RiverClan cat he will speak to about this. Chapter 10. Journey Time with Frostpaw. Her and Nighthart follow the sun, and Frostpaw tries to have faith in Nighthart. I understand her reluctance after everything she's been through. While Nighthart hunts, Frostpaw rests and dreams of StarClan once more. Riverstar is still being cagey about telling Frostpaw anything, but does give her a hint of where to go. I thought we were going to meet a new cat when the two find a pile of fish by the river, but instead we get in an intense fight with otters. It was very cool to see Frostpaw fight. Her and Nighthart did well together, even if the battle left both our travelers injured. Nighthart to the point of unconsciousness. We return to his POV when he wakes up, worrying that Frostpaw has left him. He laments about how distant and untrusting she's been, as he's tried to befriend her. If he had a fraction of the trauma that she's had, maybe he'd be a little bit more understanding. Anyways, she didn't leave him. She was waiting for him to awaken and tended to his wounds. The cats were able to bond and seem like they might actually end up as good friends by the end of this. I like getting some Nighthart plot that isn't all about Sunbeam. I think I'd like him a lot more as a character without that relationship in the back of my mind. The two have trouble with bikes, a dog, and a pool, but are on the right path. I'm pretty worried about Nighthart's leg wound though. It seems to be getting worse, and probably needed rest and not getting dunked in chlorine. Back in ThunderClan, the mediation has not changed anything yet. But we learn that Splashtail seems to be speaking for RiverClan, which worries me, and that Tigerstar has agreed not to increase his presence in RiverClan, which is good. Ivypool decides to speak with Dovewing though, to see if she can convince her to get Tigerstar to back off. Sunbeam escorts her. While doing so, she gets a chance to speak with her father, Sparrowtail, who seems like a much gentler cat than his mate. Sunbeam has an absolutely heartbreaking line here. I have to be with Nighthart, and if that means joining ThunderClan, I have no choice. It just really sucks she feels this way, and that Nightheart's kind of taken any choice away from her with his actions. They should have been able to have a discussion instead of him just running back to ThunderClan and having her follow if she wanted to be with him. I'm just so frustrated that most of her story this book has just been her waiting around and worrying about Nighthart. She is more than just her mate. At least she should be. Everyone should be. Nighthart gets to go on this whole adventure, and she's got nothing going on so far. Interesting plot-wise, Sparrowtail lets slip that Berryheart is planning something that would mean ShadowClan won't be staying in RiverClan anymore. From a different cat, that would sound great. From her, terrible things are definitely on the horizon. On the journey, our cats continue on, searching for a path across the river. Frostpaw speaks with Riverstar, and he gives her more clues and promises that cats will be there to help her at their destination. I'm excited to see what that's all about, and what he's expecting her to learn from all this. Nighthart and her find two trees close enough together to climb and hop across. This triggers some very bad memories for Frostpaw, as she tells Nighthart about the last time she had to climb a tree, the night she had to watch Curlfeather die. I'm glad that was brought up. That was a super traumatic event, so it makes sense that it would be affecting Frostpaw here. I'm not sure why it wasn't also brought up in the previous part when they were being chased by a dog, the creature that killed her mother, but at least it's here in some capacity. Regardless, Nighthart helps her through it, which was actually very sweet. The chapter ends with our cats finding the salmon-colored tree that Nighthart spoke of. A tree surrounded by rogues. Cats that Frostpaw was meant to find? We'll see. Back with Sunbeam, she completes her second trial without too much trouble, moving a boulder that the cats were worried might fall into the camp. She seems to have a fair few supporters in ThunderClan, which was good to see. I wonder if she'll continue to live here though, if Nighthart doesn't return soon. She doesn't seem all that happy. Frostpaw is up next. She and Nighthart watch the cats by the tree, taking special notice of a young black cat who hunted a rat, while the others ate fish from a two-leg. When they approach the group, we learn that these are indeed the park cats descended from the cats Riverstar grew up with. I was pretty sure that's where we were headed with all the focus on Riverstar, and after reading his Super Edition. The park cats even know Riverstar's name, from stories of him and his special powers. We get introduced to a whole lot of cats. They tell Frostpaw about Riverstar's past in the park, and she shares a bit about the clans in return. Waffle seems especially excited about the whole thing, and asks if he can be a warrior. I recognize his name from a poll about which fan's cat's name would be added into this arc, so I'm pretty sure that Waffle will be joining our duo on the trip home. I was glad to see that the park cats still meditate, and I hope Frostpaw brings that back to RiverClan. They could probably use it. Frostpaw seems to think it's important too, as she asks the park cats to teach her how. She sees Riverstar as she meditates, and he confirms that this is where she's meant to be, and what she's meant to be doing, and that she's supposed to allow these cats and Nighthart to support her fully. But he warns it will be difficult, and bring on powerful emotions. Frostpaw knows what she needs to do. Focused her attention to the one she's been avoiding, the cat who tried to murder her, even if it means uncovering something that would hurt her more than anything. She spends days meditating, but it's only when she's persuaded to take a break and relearn to play with Nighthart and the others is she able to face the truth, that she's known all along who attacked her. A cat she loved and confided in, Splashtail. Incredibly validating to hear. She also decides to stay with the park cats until she learns how and who to choose to be RiverClan's next leader. Nighthart hunts with Rook, the black she-cat, Waffle, and Frostpaw. We learn of Waffle's past here. He was thrown into the river by his two legs as a kitten. A wild backstory to give to a cat who was named after a fan's cat. What the hell? It was pretty amazing to see the kindness of Rook, Waffle, and earlier Bee show towards Frostpaw. She's been through so much, and this is exactly what she needed to start to heal. And I'm very glad to hear that Frostpaw knows now that Splashtail was manipulating her and never loved her like she did him. Back at the park, Bee references to Nighthart that there is another horrible truth that Frostpaw must uncover, and I have a terrible feeling it's about her mother. Who else could cause her more pain than Splashtail trying to kill her? The chapter ends with Frostpaw waking from her meditation and telling Nighthart she knows what happened to RiverClan. By her reaction, it's something truly dreadful. I can't wait to hear more. But we have to wait, and see how Sunbeam is doing instead. She's preparing for her final trial. Finchslade finds her and tells her how the mediation is going. It sounds like Tigerstar is going to slowly pull out of RiverClan, and that Duskfur is going to act as a sort of temporary leader with Splashtail as deputy. So I'm preparing for Duskfur to be the next cat to die, and for Splashtail to inevitably take over. On Sunbeam's trial, which is kind of a scavenger hunt around ThunderClan territory, Cherryfall deliberately gives her a fake clue, which sucked. But she figured out where she was meant to go regardless, and passed the trial. She has a lovely moment with everyone, where she realizes she likes ThunderClan, and feels like there's a place for her here even without Nighthart. Which is great, I'll admit. But I can't imagine she ever would have chosen this without him. But I am glad she's happy and feels free. All good things. Thankfully, Cherryfall seems to accept Sunbeam after she confronts her. Squirrelstar then takes Sunbeam to a mediator meeting, and she has to talk to her mother. Berryheart is clearly up to no good and is very unhappy with Tigerstar and ShadowClan being in RiverClan. I mean, me too, but for very different reasons. I was happy that Sunbeam said part of the reason she left ShadowClan was because she disagreed with what they were doing. But that feels like a bit of a hindsight thing and not really the reason. I kind of wish that was focused on more than like just her relationship with Nighthart, which I don't like. I was thankful that Sunbeam shared her worries about Berryheart's possible planning with Squirrelstar. This is not something that should stay a secret. We're back with Frostpaw next. She speaks about the ways of the park cats, how they are guided by kindness and are so non-judgmental of others and always willing to help. She wants that for RiverClan, and for all the clans. And honestly, I think that's wonderful. The park cats seem like such an amazing community, and the clans would do well to take a page out of their book. Which is why Frostpaw thinks choosing the right leader is so important. And I agree. Frostpaw is shown more visions as she meditates, for the last time at the park. She's shown all that Splashtail has done. We learn that the feather that nearly made Curlfeather leader was planted by him, like I and many fans suspected. But there's still more. Reedfeather's murder may have been done by Splashtail's claws, but it wasn't planned by him alone. He had help. He had Curlfeather. I knew that Curlfeather knew more than she was letting on with her last words of trust no cat, but it's pretty difficult to hear how deeply she'd been involved. She plotted murder and used her daughter, making her think she was meant to be a medicine cat, to try to become leader herself. I have very mixed feelings. I feel like I need more details on exactly all that Curlfeather did before I can decide if I think she deserved to end up in the Dark Forest. After all, I do not trust the StarClan system after their stunt with Squirrelstar and Leafpool's trial, and them letting in Ashfur, no problem. Skystar also comes to mind after reading the story at the end of the Ultimate Guide. He led a life full of violence and cruelty, but made it into StarClan because his last act in life was to save someone. Curlfeather saved her daughter at the cost of her own life, at the cost of her ambitions, of her plan, but is shown no similar sympathy. The authors are biased against their female characters, and it shows in who gets into StarClan, as well as in many other ways. Either way, I do appreciate a bit of a plot twist, and I think Dark Forest Curlfeather has a lot of interesting potential if she truly did do enough to earn a place there. Like, if she was the mastermind behind the whole plot, that's honestly kind of fascinating, and I hope we learn more about her plan and her motivations. It would make sense if she was using a younger cat like Splashtail, like she used Frostpaw, and now he's just taken over her plan after her death. But like I said, I need to know more, and I desperately hope we get more, and this isn't just it. Chapter 20 is a Nighthart POV. It's time for him and Frostpaw to return home. Waffle and another cat called Wasp both decide to go with them and join the clans. I'm pretty excited about that. A pregnant cat called Firefly also tells Nighthart that she's going to name her kits Frost and Night, which is adorable. But I was kind of surprised that Nighthart didn't have any, opinions on this, as it's kind of his whole thing that he's upset he got a legacy name. But whatever. They all make it back pretty quickly, just in time for a gathering where they plan to share all that Frostpaw has learned. A good idea in theory, but I'm sure something will go wrong. We switch to Sunbeam for the gathering. It's a big one, oh boy. RiverClan says they've had a vigil for Frostpaw. It's been over a moon since she disappeared, and all signs pointed to her death. Berryheart makes a big scene about Sunbeam passing her trials, but Sunbeam has a great speech about finding her place in the world, which I really do appreciate. As much as it bothers me that Nighthart just dipped without a word, and a good chunk of Sunbeam's plot was just missing him, she did actually have a lot of good interactions with her new clanmates, and I'm glad it wasn't entirely about Nighthart. She's found her people, and a family that's kind to her, and that's really important. Berryheart really gets into it next, announcing that her and her followers want Tigerstar removed as leader of ShadowClan. Whoa, okay. I mean, same girl, but again, for different reasons. And also you suck just as much, if not more. It goes badly for Berryheart, as support for her wasn't as strong as she thought, and she kind of ends up exiled by Tigerstar. Also kind of just leaves on her own accord though. Her mate and one of her kits, Hollowspring, agreed to leave with her. She may be gone from ShadowClan, but I'm sure she's not done causing trouble for them. And as the chapter ends, Duskfur calls out that there's something everybody needs to know. I am so nervous. Is she going to step down and let Splashtail take over? Back with Frostpaw, her group hides on the island, watching the chaotic gathering unfold. And we hear Duskfur's announcement. They've chosen a new medicine cat for RiverClan, Podlight. It's super sketchy as he described the visions he's allegedly been receiving. He seems like another pawn placed by Splashtail. My fears were confirmed when he talks about the things he was told by Riverstar. Some trash about RiverClan being as powerful as the river, and the like. Very not Riverstar vibes, as Frostpaw calls out. He also shares that StarClan has chosen the next leader of RiverClan. Surprise, surprise, it's Splashtail. Frostpaw is so screwed. If only she had arrived a little bit early. Or just yelled out at any point in this conversation. The book ends with Frostpaw panicking and Nighthart promising to figure this out with her. Oh boy, what an ending. Thanks for watching. I have to say, despite its issues, I actually really enjoyed Thunder, and found it much less frustrating than the book before. Though I cannot believe that Nighthart abandoned Sunbeam without a word for an entire book. I was really expecting at least a reunion at the end. But yeah, this was a fun one, full of twists and reveals, and some great new characters. I'm very excited to read the next one whenever it's out, and to see how Frostpaw will prevail. If you've given this book a read, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you next Thursday.